Um. So yeah, no, I just had to bring that up. All right. Moving on to question number 3. How fast can angels move? Can they move as fast as a jet? Would they have to board said jet? Or I guess, or would they have to board said jet?
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So with this, how fast is two things: speed and distance and size are relative and flexible between the spiritual and the natural as far as the way we do this in the game. So, for example, let's do the size one. Somebody could, let's say an angel might be a giant, like be twice as large as this human, but then that human it gets into a compact car and goes to drive somewhere, and there's some evil spiritual enemy that wants to they're you're fighting over this guy. They could both shrink down and be fighting in that same car with the guy, and it would be fine, and they'd fit just fine. So the host that's handy for playing a game when you're dealing with tactical style game where you got to measure distances and do those things. Is that you could be in a small lobby and have like 10 angels fighting in that lobby, and you might want to make it somewhat tight, but you can kind of flex it to be a bigger than what that lobby really would be.
Yeah. And
Because again, you're two different realms, and they're not
exactly.
one-to-one correlation between them. So the next side of that, then on the speed and ranges, people ask me, well, what would 1 inch, because we measure with inches in the game, what would 1 inch translate to in real life? And I'm like, it really doesn't fluctuate well. And really, honestly, the straight answer is the way I have the measurements in the game, it's balanced for fun and appropriate play on a tabletop. It is balanced. The measurements, the distances I have are to make it fun to play on a regular tabletop. They're not for a perfect, correlation. So it works out with the spirit realm that I can do that.
Yeah.
But with what's that?
And also, it's a huge pain in the butt when you're trying to design a map for D&D. And it's like, where's 5 feet? So it's like, but now I have, like, for an interesting battlefield, you have to fight in, like, an enormous room all the time.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's the
come
thing. Really,
on.
if you're really dungeon crawling, I don't think they're big enough for two people to pass a lot of times. I think it would be.
No.
I think real dungeon crawling would be not something great for a party to do.
No, not at all.
you
That's why
know?
you have Indiana Jones doing that. I mean, not
Yeah.
exactly, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Then when it comes to speed, how fast they are relative to a jet. The thing is, ultimately, the way I would consider it is are you trying to stay with that human? Is that the thing you're trying to engage with? Then you could be sitting on top of the jet, or you could be in the jet or flying alongside the jet. We would just consider this the situation that you and the other spirits are engaged in is moving. So the
Yeah.
jet is where the situation is, and the situation is moving, and your inertia kind of follows the situation, or
Hmm.
can. So really, that's something that, as the storyteller, the host, the host is what we call the game master, DM, the GM in our game, in Allies of Majesty. So the host can play with that and do what they need to do to make it fun and interesting for their table. But no, you wouldn't have to be inside the jet. And but as far as travel, now that's a whole different thing. Let's say you want. Oh well, was that part of this question? Or I think
Um,
it's another question about teleporting.
yeah, no, that's a different question. We got
That's a
later
different
on.
question. We'll save that then. Let's go
Yeah,
for it.
for sure. Yeah, and it's one of those things too where like Allies isn't trying to be a super realistic in that sense type of game, unlike for instance like Delta Green, where like if you are pretending to be an FBI agent, like the game, like the book has it laid out to where what is acceptable for a real life FBI agent to do. Can I
Yeah.
have my sidearm on an airplane? Or like,
Yeah.
okay, yes, that's standard, fine, that's acceptable, for that setting and whatever. And like I said, it's not trying to, be that hyper realistic, partly because it is a lot of the game takes place in a, spiritual, different
Right.
realm.
Although
and you
you brought
can
up a
just kind of
great
hand wave
point.
it.